Hello everyone and welcome. My name is Jake and today I just really quickly wanted to talk about the PlayStation showcase that we seen just yesterday. Now I have quite a lot to say about this showcase and it's not particularly on the positive side of things. I think overall it was a pretty large disappointment, but I just wanted to make a really quick video just quickly jumping in, looking at the games that got revealed and talking about why overall I felt like it was a bit of a disappointment. Now I know I'm definitely not alone in that stance. I've talked to people around the community and everyone seems to kind of have the same sort of opinion that it wasn't necessarily a terrible showcase. We did get some good things there, which I'll go into in a minute. But for the most part, I think everyone left feeling quite disappointed because it was hyped up to be this huge PlayStation showcase event and it turned out just being this very mediocre sort of state of play plus kind of thing rather than an actual first party huge showcase. So one of my personal biggest disappointments with this is that we didn't actually see anything on The Last of Us Factions, which is Naughty Dog's multiplayer IP. I was fully expecting this to be there. This and Spider-Man 2 were my two guarantees. So the fact we didn't get anything on that again is really disappointing to me. I feel like this game has been talked about for years and I don't remember if it was last year or just a few years ago now, but we got some concept trailer on it which looked really cool, some concept art, sorry. And it looked really cool, but we didn't get any gameplay. We haven't seen anything on it other than that like piece of concept art, and again it just being talked about for a long time. So the fact that again another year is going by and we're not hearing any news on this huge multiplayer Last of Us game is just a huge disappointment. Again, I fully expected it to be there, but let's move on to the things that were actually there. So they opened the showcase with a new game called Fair Games. Honestly, it didn't show a lot, and this is kind of a recurring problem that you're going to see throughout the showcase, is that a lot of these trailers, they come on and they're very flashy and they show a cool bunch of cool stuff, but we don't see anything in actual gameplay or we don't learn anything about the game. It's just a bunch of weird stuff. It looks like it's kind of an arena shooter, like a 3v3 or something along those lines, but again, we don't really know anything, so there's not a lot I can say about it. It was a weird thing to choose to open the showcase with. As soon as I seen that, my expectations kind of dropped and I was like, oh dear, this is not gonna be that great. But I kept hoping. And then they showed Ghost Runner 2, which looked pretty cool. I wasn't really a fan of the first game very much, but I know a lot of people were, so you know, I'm still pretty happy to see that there regardless. Then they showed off Helldivers 2, which I've heard that the first one was pretty good, but again, I never played it very much. I didn't really think much looking at this gameplay that we've seen. It looked like it could be fun, but it's not really my type of thing. It just sort of looks like endlessly shooting waves of monsters, which again, I'm sure that's some people's jam. It looks like a great arcade game, but it didn't really wow me or anything. It looks okay. So, you know, the showcase not off to the greatest start. And then we had Immortals of Avium, which I can't actually remember what it is. I'm reading all of this off a list that I made. I don't remember what Immortals of Avium is. It doesn't ring any bell. Let me quickly go look that up and then I'll be right back. Okay, yeah, so this was like a first-person shooter, but you had like magic instead of guns and you're doing a bunch of cool things with your hand. Again, not really my type of thing. It looks kind of cool, I guess, but you know, I don't know, it's just another kind of first-person shooter. It didn't really wow me, it didn't really do anything for me. I don't know if other people were very happy to see it there or something, but again, just, you know, it's just kind of another game that I didn't expect to be here and it didn't really do anything for me. Then we got Phantom Blade Zero. Now Phantom Blade, this actually did surprise me because the combat looked very cool and the gameplay that they showed looked great. I mean, I hope it's gameplay. And this entire game overall just looked really solid. But the problem is it was giving off kind of a Souls-like kind of vibe, and after looking it up, it turns out that's exactly what it is. And I'm gonna be honest with you guys, this might be a kind of unpopular opinion, but I am kind of getting sick of Soul-likes. No one does those games as good as FromSoft. There's never gonna be a game that is better than Elden Ring that isn't done by FromSoft themselves. And every single time I play a Souls-like that isn't made from FromSoft, I kind of just lose interest after a while because it's never as good as Dark Souls or Sekiro or anything like that. So the fact that again this is just another Souls-like game kind of turned me off. If it was a cool action game and it had all of the combat that we see and all that stuff, but it wasn't a Souls-like, this would probably interest me more. But just the fact that it is again another Souls-like that we've seen so many times and it fails almost every single time, or I guess not fails, I guess that's a harsh word, but they're never as good as FromSoft games. And again, the fact it's just another one of those makes me lose interest in this quite a bit, which is really sad to see. I wish developers would stop trying to chase this trend and just focus on other things, because Souls-like games are very difficult to make and very difficult to get right. And even if you make a good one, they're not going to be as good as FromSoft games. You're just you're trying to fill a space that I don't think can really be filled. I wish it was different, but that's how it is. But again, I'm sure some people will play it and love it. Personally, I'm not that interested. I think I'll try it, but I don't really have high expectations because Souls-like games just don't do it for me if they're not from FromSoft themselves. And then they showed another game which was by the same developer as Journey and Abzu. And it's called Sword of the Sea. It didn't really show too much of this game, but I mean, these games are kind of hard to show, I guess. These games are fun, they're good. They're really good art experiences, and I think they're great. And although I'm glad to see there's another one in development and coming out soon, it again wasn't something I was expecting to see here. This was supposed to be a huge showcase, and so far we're just kind of getting indie titles and nothing really that big. It's kind of just like this could just be Summer Games Fest or any other sort of E3 event. Why is this at the PlayStation thing? You know, you think they'd focus on first party titles. So I was starting to feel pretty disappointed at this point, and I was debating just going to bed and calling it a night. But I stayed with it, and then they showed the Talos Principle 2, which obviously is a sequel to the Talos Principle. Again, not really my cup of tea, but you know, that's there. And then there were a few other indie games, but finally, after a whole bunch of these sort of indie games, they finally showed something by a known publisher, Square Enix. Now when I seen this, I thought it was going to be Final Fantasy, again another series that I'm not super into, but I know is obviously huge and I have a lot of respect for it. But they did not come out with Final Fantasy. They showed Foam Stars, which what's going on there? They basically looked at Splatoon and said, hey, let's do that but with foam. And I honestly couldn't really believe what I was watching. I mean, sure, try make a rival to Splatoon. Splatoon is pretty successful over on the Switch, but it's just such, again, it's such a weird thing to show in the showcase. This has been nothing but sort of meh reveals, some good ones, but again, why are they in the PlayStation showcase? And this just solidifies that even further. Why are you showing this here? This isn't a big game, this isn't a big deal. I think most people looked at this and just said, but why would I not play Splatoon? I don't know, man. I mean, I guess it could be good, but you know, PlayStation aren't exactly winning me over so far. But anyway, whatever, we carry on, moving on, and we get some more indie games. I don't want to go through all of them because we'll be here for otherwise. But the next game we got was Metal Gear Solid 3, and that was obviously cool, right? Obviously, but the problem is, and to give PlayStation the benefit of the doubt here, that was leaked a ton prior to the showcase. Everybody knew it was going to be there. If there was no leaks, if this was really kept under hush, then this would have been a huge moment and people would have lost their minds, be like, oh my god, you know, this is a really big moment. This is about halfway through, so that would be pretty cool. But obviously we all knew it was coming. It didn't show any gameplay. It was just an announcement trailer. It wasn't that good to look at. It was just sort of, again, just a bird flying through a swamp and then you see, you know, Snake come out from the water. It would have been a good moment if it wasn't leaked, but obviously that isn't entirely on PlayStation. You can't exactly, you know, judge them for that. But regardless, it is what it is, and it you know, it was leaked prior to the showcase, so not really a wow moment there. I would have liked to have seen some gameplay snippets or a gameplay trailer or something rather than just this small teaser. We didn't get a release date either, so and that's another thing. While we're on that, this showcase had no release dates. I mean, it had a few, like 1 or 2 or 3, but everything either didn't have any release date or was given like a really wide release window. Even Spider-Man 2 still doesn't have a concrete release date. It's just fall 2023, which is bizarre to me. What is going on? Anyway, whatever, moving on from that. The next big game we got was Alan Wake 2, which looked really cool actually. I really enjoyed the trailer. It looked great. There was a bit of gameplay in there. Overall, I think it does look great. This was kind of the first thing where I was like, okay, this feels like an actual showcase now. We're actually getting somewhere, and I thought things were going to be picking up. And the very next game after this was Assassin's Creed Mirage. So again, I was like, okay, right, yeah, we got the first half out of the way, they got all the indies, now we're getting into the meat of it. This is the actual big stuff. And Assassin's Creed Mirage looked pretty great. From what I've heard from the development, it's kind of it's hard to tell. It looks good, but the fact that it was a Valhalla DLC and was just taken and made into a full game kind of worries me a little bit. I don't know how big this game is going to be, or if they're going to be able to actually pull it off well, but from what I've seen, it looks pretty good, and I think I'll be giving it a try. But then after that, we had some more indies, which didn't really show much. There was some weird game about a cat or something. I don't know. They didn't show anything. There was no release date. I don't know. I think it's like Night in the Woods or something. I played a little bit, but I don't know, man. Like it didn't really capture me. It was just another indie game, and again, at this point my expectations were getting lower again. And then they showed Street Fighter 6, which I think has already been announced anyway, so it didn't really wow me. I don't really care for fighting games anyway, but I don't think this really, excited anyone, because again, I think this game has been announced before. We didn't really have a lot, but then they came out with something big. Dragon's Dogma 2. Yes, we finally got a trailer for this game. Now listen. I am a fan of this, okay? I have been waiting to see this game for so long, and we finally got a trailer, and oh my god, does it look good. This lives up to everything that I wanted it to be. I am so excited to get into this game, but guys, we didn't get a release date. There was no release date at all, not even a year. We have no idea when this game's coming out. They show some stuff, which is great, but no release window kind of leaves me a bit bitter. I'm very excited for this game. I want it to be here now. I hope it comes soon, and I really hope we get a release date soon. Pretty disappointed we didn't get one at this showcase, but finally, something that I'm actually excited for, Dragon's Dogma 2. And then PlayStation went to the VR section of their showcase. Now, I don't own a PSVR 2, but I have owned a Valve Index, and I've played a bunch of games on there, but the problem was that it got old very quickly. There's not enough games releasing to keep my interest, so I ended up selling it. This section didn't sell me on PSVR 2, to be completely honest, but it was not bad. So, the key highlights of this section for me was Resident Evil 4 VR, Arizona Sunshine 2, and Crossfire Sierra Squad. Now, those three games together look really interesting, and I'd be pretty excited to jump in and play, but it doesn't justify buying a VR headset for. I was kind of hoping this PSVR section would be a lot bigger than it was, and they would have a lot more announcements to show, but obviously they only showed, I think it was like 5 games, 3 of which I'm kind of interested in, but again, I can't justify buying a VR headset just to play. So who knows, maybe they have a lot more stuff in development that they're just not ready to show yet. Speaking of Arizona Sunshine 2, we didn't actually get gameplay on that. I'm pretty sure it was all like CGI footage because it looked very fake. I liked the first Arizona Sunshine to an extent. I think it wasn't that great, but it was fun enough to play through. I hope Arizona Sunshine 2 makes a lot of big steps with that game. I hope they have a lot more tech on there and a lot more cool stuff that you can do, but I'm kind of like 50-50. But again, I won't talk about it too much because I don't have a PSVR 2 and I don't think I'm going to get one anytime soon anyway. But Crossfire Sierra Squad does look fantastic. That looks like a ton of fun. And then we get to the Bungie section, and they had 2 things to show. So the first one was a game called Marathon, which I believe is a revival of an old game that they made actually. Don't really know a lot about it, wasn't a lot of details given, not a lot to say there. I can't even say if it looked cool because it was a weird CGI trailer. I guess it looked interesting, just I don't have a whole lot to say there. And then we got Destiny 2 The Final Shape, which is like, from what I've heard, the big ending to Destiny. It's like their big sort of cinematic ending moment. I haven't played Destiny 2, I don't really care for it again, but I'm pretty sure a lot of Destiny fans will get hyped for this, so that was pretty good to see there. Then we got a game called Concord, which again showed absolutely nothing, don't know what that is, not really interested in it because they haven't showed anything. And then we showed some tech, which was like a PlayStation handheld console and some PS5 earbuds. Like, okay, that's the kind of stuff I'd expect to be here, but like, this is like the end of the showcase and there hasn't been a lot, it's just been overall very disappointing. But then they pull out their final game, and this was kind of a oh my god moment, because when they started showing this game, it was like kind of a jungle, and there was a guy in it, and there was someone dying, And me and my friend who was watching this, we were like, they're actually not showing Spider-Man 2. Like, what is this? Like Predator hunting grounds or something? Like, why is this here? And we were getting pretty angry. And then, of course, the guy gets handed the tablet. And at this point, I was like, okay, I see what's going on here. They're going to do a little switcheroo on us. And of course, they did. It turned out to be Spider-Man 2. There was like 15 minutes of gameplay. It looked really great. I'm not going to lie. I'm very excited for Spider-Man 2. And again, this is something that I was expecting to be there. And it looked better than I actually thought it would. So I'm pretty happy with that. But this is kind of the only thing that I felt was showcase worthy. Every other game we've seen in this showcase was just sort of like, you could show that at any E3 event, because a lot of them aren't even PlayStation exclusives. So after that showcase, I kind of just sat there for a moment and I was like, okay, let's unpack what we got, because there was some good things. There was Dragon Dogma 2, there was Spider-Man, there was Assassin's Creed, Alan Wake. There was quite a few good games there, and of course the Metal Gear Solid announcement, which would have been a lot bigger if it wasn't, already leaked. But all of that being said, even with all of that, even if Metal Gear wasn't leaked, this still didn't feel like a PlayStation showcase, because they had so many indie titles in here that are multi-platform anyway. It just kind of felt, again, like a State of Play or some sort of, State of Play Plus. There was so much hype around this showcase that it made it sound like this was going to be one of their big things. Like, this was going to be their huge E3 event. We were going to get a bunch of first-party games and announcements, and PlayStation were really going to bring the big guns and be like, hey, this is what's coming to PlayStation 5. But it was just so incredibly underwhelming. Now, I don't know if this is the fault of PlayStation or the PlayStation fans and leakers and stuff who are hyping this up. I honestly, I can't pinpoint it. But regardless, the fact that, again, it was called the PlayStation Showcase and not just a State of Play, again, that alone sets these expectations up. And you just have to ask, what were they thinking? Because again, other than Spider-Man, what really was there that made this a PlayStation Showcase? There was no Last of Us Factions, there was no Last of Us Part 3 announcement, there was no God of War DLC or some sort of new Santa Monica announcement. There was nothing really from the big studios except from Insomniac, and again, it just leaves me wondering, what is going on? And on top of that, we didn't get release dates for hardly any of the games here, barely even release years, so I don't know. I walked away from this showcase just overall very disappointed, and it gets me kind of worried, because what if the Xbox showcase is sort of the same thing? Now, for those of you who don't know, Xbox have a showcase coming up next month, and it's supposedly 2 hours long, 30 minutes of that being a Starfield deep dive. Now, I'm excited for the Starfield deep dive alone. That's something that I'm going to be tuning in for, and I feel like I'm going to be walking away happy. But if they just end up showing, again, a bunch of these indie titles that are going to be multi-platform and nothing first party and huge at their Xbox showcase, I'm going to be walking away mostly with the same feeling. The only thing saving it, of course, being Starfield, the same way that the only thing that saved this showcase was Spider-Man. I'm just not really sure what's going on, and I wanted to make a video about it, just kind of venting my frustrations a little bit and see if any of you guys have the same sort of thoughts, because again, I've talked to people around the community and everyone kind of seems to be leaning in the same boat. Like, yeah, there was some good games, but it didn't really feel like a showcase. Didn't feel like anything that special. It was just kind of a letdown overall. And look, I know that games take a long time to make. I know that especially today more than ever, they take even longer to make and they're much harder and they cost a lot more money. And there isn't always going to be a bunch of stuff to show. You can't walk out every year and have all of these huge new titles ready to go. But it's been so long since we've seen anything. Again, even if it wasn't gameplay, and we just got something solid on Factions, The Last of Us Part 3, or just anything else that is first party, I would have been happier. But again, just showing a bunch of indie games and other things that can be done at any other showcase just isn't that great. Now, I don't want to sound too sour on this. Of course, I love indie games, and giving them the spotlight like a PlayStation showcase, being able to advertise their game, is amazing. But a lot of these games just weren't ready to be shown. We got trailers for games and we don't even know what it's about. We don't know the genre, we don't know the gameplay. It's just a short trailer with a name and no release. And again, that doesn't generate hype. That's just forgettable. So yeah, I don't know. I'm not really happy with this whole showcase overall. Again, it wasn't a huge disappointment. It's not the worst one I've ever seen. There were some things in there that saved it, but again, I was just expecting so much more and I'm walking away feeling let down. But that's pretty much all I wanted to talk about. Let me know what you thought of the PlayStation Showcase down below in the comments section. Anyway guys, that's all I've got to talk about, so thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and that notification bell so you know when I next upload a video. This has been Jake, and I will see you in the next one.